Hello students, let us discuss the question number 2 from the practical on single parameter models. So suppose you are about to flip a coin that you believe is fair, and if P is the denote the probability that the coin will flip ahead, then you think that the best chance or the best guess of P is 0.5. Moreover, you believe that it is highly likely that the coin is close to fair. So you try to attach 90% probability to the interval 0.44 to 0.56. So two priors are suggested for the parameter P. So the first prior is beta 100, whereas the second prior is a mixture prior where 90% probability is attached to the beta 500 and only 10% probability is attached to the beta 1 1. Beta 1 1 is simply uniform distribution over the interval 0 to 1. So now we have to judge whether the choice of prior matters in this discussion, and if it matters, then how much does it matter? That is the question we are trying to answer here. So the first question tells you to simulate 1000 values from each prior density P1 and P2, and then by summarizing the simulated samples, show that both priors match the given prior beliefs about the coin flipping probability P. Okay, and then the second question talks about, suppose you flip the coin 100 times and obtain 45 hits. Simulate 1000 values from the posteriors from priors P1 and P2 and compute 90% probability intervals. So let us first try to answer question 2a. Then we will theoretically solve question 2b, where we will derive the posterior distributions starting with priors given in P1 and P2. And then in R we will simulate observations from the posterior distributions, and finally we'll compute the 90% probability interval. Now let us consider solution to question 2b, where they have specified both the prior distributions and have also specified the information that 100 trials were conducted, and out of 100 trials, exactly 45 times we got the head. So exactly 100 times the coin was flipped and 45 times head has been observed. So now the question is to find posterior distribution in this setup. So suppose G1P is the prior distribution specified by the first prior, which is beta 100. Then the posterior distribution will be beta with parameters 145 and 155. So the calculations are shown here. The joint distribution will be the product of marginal x, means it will be the product of the distribution of x given P multiplied by the prior distribution, which is G1P. And so because x is equal to 45 is absurd, so let us put n equal to 100 and x equal to 45 here. So ultimately we get this as the posterior distribution. So here is the posterior distribution if first prior is assumed. Now let us see what will be the posterior if the second prior is assumed. So if the second prior is assumed, so here is the second prior, 0.9 times beta PDF with parameters 500 plus 0.1 times beta PDF with parameters 1. So if you assume this, then you will have to multiply this conditional PMF of x given P with this. So ultimately you will get 100 choose 45 P raised to 45 into 1 minus P raised to 55. This is the binomial PMF at 0.45 with probability P multiplied by 0.9 upon the beta PDF with parameters 500 plus 0.1 times beta PDF with parameter 1. So this will be the joint PMF of X and P. Now let us simplify this further. So okay, it looks like this. So I have taken this P raised to 45 into 1 minus P raised to 55 inside. So this P raised to 499 plus 45. So I get P raised to 544 and 1 minus P raised to 554. Similarly, in the second term, I get 100 choose 45 into 0.1 into p raised to 45 into 1 minus p raised to 55. So now this is the joint PDF of x and p when x is equal to 45. Now let us find the marginal probability that x is equal to 45. So we will have to integrate out p. So clearly if I integrate the first term here containing p's, I'll get beta 545 and beta 555. So this is what I will get. And similarly in the second case, I'll get beta 46, 56 into 100 choose 45 into 0.1. Okay, so if this is the marginal and if this is the joint, then the posterior will be simply the ratio of the two. So the posterior is simply, let us see here, 0.9 upon beta 500 into this plus this. So this is the joint PMF of for x and p as specified here. Okay, and now so notice that 100 choose 45 will get cancelled from everywhere. So I have already cancelled it here and I have written the terms without this. So 0.9 upon beta 500 into this term plus 0.1 into p4 raised to 45 into 1 minus p raised to 55 and all these. Now how do we go? What can we simplify this further? So what will happen if I gather this numerator, first term in the numerator upon denominator plus second term in the numerator upon denominator. So let us try separating these two terms. So the first term in the numerator upon denominator. Now if you notice, beta 500 can get cancelled if the second term in the denominator is multiplied by beta 500. So let us multiply the second term in the denominator by beta 500. So you will get 0.9 times p raised to 544 into 1 minus p raised to 554 upon 0.9 times beta 545 plus 0.1 times beta 4656 multiplied by beta 500. Similarly, one can proceed for the second term in the numerator divided by the entire denominator. So it will look like this. Please check the calculations and if there are any corrections, please let me know as early as possible. So thus, the first term if you adjust a bit, you can write this itself as a beta distribution with parameters for parameters 545 and 555. And the second term, if you adjust carefully, you can write this as a beta density with parameters 46, 56. So how it can be done? See here, this entire denominator is a constant. So containing this 0.9 right from the term 0.9 to 0.9 beta 545, this entire denominator, all this can be adjusted so that this term becomes a proper beta PDF. So see how it is done here. So alpha 1 I have chosen as 0.9 times beta 555. So let me explain it again. How is it done? In this numerator, just focus on the terms containing p. So now divide these two terms by beta 545 and beta 555 and then multiply again by beta 545. So the term will be a beta PDF with parameters 545 and 555 and the rest of the terms are put here in alpha 1. So this is how the first term in this addition can be written as a alpha 1 times beta PDF with parameters 545 and 555. Similarly, the second term in this addition can be written as alpha 2 times beta PDF with parameters 46 and 56, where alpha 2 will be like this. Okay, so if your calculations are correct, alpha 1 plus alpha 2 should add up to 1. So yes, they add up to 1. So clearly the posterior distribution is a mixture of beta with parameters 545 and 555 and beta distribution with parameters 46 and 56. So this is This was the derivation of posterior distribution when the second prior is assumed. Now let us see how random sample can be generated from both these posterior distributions. So we are back to the solution of question 2b. So in the first case, the posterior distribution was beta with parameters 145 and 155. So using the command r beta, we can generate random sample from this beta distribution and store it in the vector PSP1. Now the second posterior distribution first requires the calculation of proportion of mixtures which are alpha 1 and alpha 2, and here we face a difficulty. Since the numbers are really large, see what happens if we directly try to calculate these constants here. See here alpha 1 and alpha 2. Okay, so you feel that you have calculated alpha 1, alpha 2. Look at the values. Same is the case with alpha 2. Look at the value. So both are infinity, but we know for sure that they are not infinity. Why is it happening? So this is happening because R cannot compute beta of such large numbers, because computing beta function of such large numbers is going to need computation of gamma function of these large numbers, which will ultimately need the factorial. So now factorial of 544 or 554 or factorial of the addition of the two will also be needed. So these are huge numbers and it is beyond the capacity of R to calculate these huge numbers. So how can we solve this problem here? So what can be done is, because we want to compute alpha 1 and alpha 2 like this, let us first focus on alpha 1. And we know for sure a fact that alpha 1 plus alpha 2 is equal to 1. So if we are able to compute alpha 1, we can simply say alpha 2 is 1 minus alpha 1. So let us see how alpha 1 can be computed. Now because this numerator is itself a large number, so what can be done is divide the numerator and denominator both by the term, all the terms contained in numerator. So divide the numerator and denominator by 0.9 times beta 545555. So if you do this, you will get 1 upon the first term in the denominator will be simply 1 plus now this 0.1 upon 0.9 times beta 46 into beta 46 56 into beta 500 500 upon beta 545555. So I am calling beta 545555 as A, beta 46 56 as B, and beta 500 500 as C. So ultimately I plan to compute 1 upon 1 plus 0.1 by 0.9 means simply 1 by 9 times B into C upon A. So let us try to first compute B into C by A, then the rest of the computation can be easy. So now what is B into C by A? Look at the values in B into C. So B is beta 46, 56. So now that will be 45 factorial into 55 factorial upon 101 factorial, correct? Then similarly C will be 499 factorial, 499 factorial upon addition of the two is 1000 minus 1. Gamma of 1000 will be 999 factorial. Alright, and now upon A, what is A? Beta 545555 means it will be 544 factorial into 554 factorial upon 1099 factorial. Now 1099 factorial will go to the numerator, and so ultimately we have to compute this constant which I have specified in the comment here. 45 factorial into 55 factorial into 499 factorial into 499 into 1099. So many factorials are there. You can notice all these are large numbers. So let us see if we can simplify this further. So notice that this 55 factorial can be used in cancelling as many terms as possible in this 101 factorial. So basically I can write 101 factorial as 101 factorial into 100 into 99 and so on up to 56 into 56 into 55 factorial. So that 101, I'll have a product of terms starting from 101 till the term 56. Okay, so in the numerator, I'll have the first term as it is, which is 45 factorial. Similarly, in the denominator, I'll have product of 101 to 56. Now, what else can be done? Let us see. What can we simplify it further? So, similarly, 499 factorial into 499 factorial can be used to simplify 544 factorial and 554 factorial. So, the ratio of the two is going to give me product of terms starting from 544 till 500. Similarly, here 554 into 553 and so on up to 500. Alright, so what else remains is 1099 factorial upon 999 factorial. So that is going to give me a product of terms starting from 1099 to 1000. So all these terms I have put together here. So let us compute the constants as we have discussed before. So term 1 will be product of 1 to 45 upon product of 56 to 101. So I am considering 55 factorial got cancelled. So what remained was 45 factorial upon product of number starting with 56 ending at 101. So the term 1 will takes care of these three terms, 45 factorial, 55 factorial and 101 factorial. Now let us move further. So 499 factorial got cancelled, and what we have instead in the denominator is product of the terms starting from 500 to 544, and the second will be product of terms starting with 500 and ending at 554. Now what will remain in the numerator is now 1099 into 1098 and so on up to 1000 into 999 factorial, which will get cancelled with 999 factorial here. And so in the numerator I'll have product of terms starting with 1000 and ending at 1099. So let us compute the term 2. So just out of curiosity I am computing this term 1 into term 2. So this term 1 into term 2 is giving me values of b into c upon a. So I am going to plug this value here. So what I have is, what I need, alpha 1 is 1 upon 1 plus 1 by 9 times b into c upon a. So alpha 1 is 1 upon 1 plus term 1 into term 2 upon 9. So let us compute alpha 1. Then let us compute alpha 2. Have a look at the values. So it is 0.977 and 0.02. So notice that now the proportions have changed. Earlier the proportion of mixtures were 0.9 and 0.1. Now they are more varied in the sense they are farther away from each other. So the first proportion has increased from 0.9 to 0.977 and the second proportion has decreased from 0.1 to 0.022. So now let us generate a random sample from this second posterior distribution by using the same method which we had used earlier. Suppose in PSP2 I am going to store these values, then use the loop the way we used earlier, generate a random sample from uniform distribution, then compare it with alpha 1. If it is less than or equal to alpha 1, then the first density in the mixture, and if it is greater than alpha 1, then the second density in the mixture. This is how it works. So let us do this. Now let us compute the histogram of both the generated samples. So the first histogram looks like this. Second histogram looks like this. Now let us try to put them together. So see, this is how they look. I have already shared this R code on the classroom. So you can try running the code line by line and you can try to understand this. And if you get a doubt, you can refer to this video lecture. So pause for a second and think about what can be said about both these posterior distributions. Are they drastically different from each other? And if yes, then in what sense are they different from each other? So from the graph itself, you can conclude a few things, such as both of them cover almost the same area. Means if I go for 95% or 90% intervals for based on these posterior distributions, then they are going to be close to each other. So let us see if that actually happens. So let us compute based on the first posterior. So the 95% interval is 0.43 to 0.53. So in the question 90% interval was told to be computed, but 95% is also fine. So I am considering 95%. You can try computing 90% interval. So if you compute 95% interval, you get it as 0.43 to 0.53 based on the first posterior. Now based on the second posterior, you get it as 0.46 to 0.52. So the second posterior is giving a slightly narrower interval than the first posterior. Now let us look at the summary of both the samples. So as you can see, the summary is comparable in the sense the minimum and the maximum are slightly different. But if you look at the quartiles, not much of a difference is there. So if you look at the posterior distributions, not much of a difference is there in the posterior distributions. So this is what we call as the robustness of Bayesian inference. So even when we started with the two totally different looking prior distributions, since the data size was large. Now why do we say that size is large? Because 100 Bernoulli trials were conducted and out of that 45 resulted in success. So because the number 100 is large enough, and so even though we have a sample of size 1 from binomial, but actually a sample of size 1 from binomial is equivalent to a sample of size n from Bernoulli distributions. So the large value of n indicates large information, and so in that sense we are dealing with a large sample here. And so as we have discussed earlier, when we are dealing with a large sample, the choice of prior does not matter much. So here also, even if we start with two drastically different prior distributions, ultimately we get posterior distributions which are not uh, totally different. So prior also that way weren't totally different. Their looks were different in the sense the first prior distribution was more concentrated around the interval 0.4 to 0.6, whereas the second prior distribution, even though majority of the weight was given to the interval 0.4 to 0.6, the spread of the distribution was more. So in that sense, the prior distributions were different from each other. But even though we start with such different prior distributions, we end up with almost similar looking posterior distributions. So this is what we mean by the Bayesian robustness.